Right now, there are more than twice as many people in the world struggling with excess weight than there are people suffering from malnutrition. And perhaps even more surprising, the number of people living with obesity is now almost equal to the number of people who are undernourished. At first glance, this sounds like progress. After all, fewer people are starving than in previous generations. But hidden beneath that statistic is another growing health crisis, one that silently affects millions of lives every single day. Excess weight and obesity are no longer simply cosmetic concerns. They are deeply connected to chronic illness, lower energy, hormonal dysfunction, poor metabolic health, and a dramatically reduced quality of life. But here's something most people never hear. If you've struggled to lose weight despite dieting, exercising, or following every piece of advice imaginable, there's a reason. And no, it's not always a lack of discipline, laziness, or poor willpower. In fact, one of the biggest myths in health today is the idea that weight loss is simply about eating less and moving more. If it were truly that simple, then everyone following the same diet and exercise routine would get the same results. But that's not what happens in real life, is it? You've probably seen this before. One person starts exercising and quickly loses weight. Another follows the exact same routine and barely notices any change. Someone eats pizza every weekend and somehow never gains weight, while another person feels like they gain pounds just from looking at dessert. So what's really happening inside the body? Why are our results so different? The answer begins with something incredibly powerful, something happening silently inside you every single second of every day. Your metabolism. But here's the part most people misunderstand. Metabolism is not some fixed machine that works exactly the same for everyone. It's not just about calories in and calories out. Your metabolism is heavily influenced by something much more important, something capable of speeding it up, slowing it down, changing where your body stores fat, how hungry you feel, and even how easily you burn energy. That hidden force is your hormones. Think about a teenager for a moment. Many teenagers can eat massive meals, fast food, sweets, even entire pizzas, and somehow remain incredibly lean. Meanwhile, someone going through hormonal changes later in life, especially during perimenopause or menopause, may suddenly feel like their body stores weight far more easily than before. What changed? The answer is hormones. Hormones are chemical messengers that influence almost everything inside your body. They help regulate energy, appetite, fat storage, blood sugar, stress responses, muscle maintenance, sleep quality, and even mood. And when hormones become imbalanced, your body begins behaving differently, sometimes in ways that feel frustrating, confusing, or completely unfair. But it gets even more fascinating than that. Hormones don't just influence whether you gain weight, they also influence where you gain it. Have you ever wondered why some people gain weight mostly around the stomach, while others notice it in their hips, thighs, face, neck, or all over the body? This isn't random. Your body isn't making careless decisions. Different hormones tend to influence fat storage in different regions, almost like they have favorite places in the body where they prefer to act. This is one of the most overlooked concepts in weight loss, and understanding it could completely change the way you approach your health. Imagine trying to solve the wrong problem for years. Maybe you've been doing endless abdominal workouts hoping to flatten your stomach, or trying extreme diets that leave you exhausted, only to see stubborn fat stay exactly where it's always been. The truth is, if hormones are playing a major role, generic advice often falls short because it fails to address the actual cause. Your body is constantly giving you clues. The areas where fat tends to accumulate can sometimes tell a story about what's happening beneath the surface. In many cases, they can point toward which hormonal systems may need more attention. For example, someone with insulin resistance and elevated blood sugar may experience a very different pattern of fat accumulation than someone dealing with thyroid dysfunction or elevated stress hormones. And because the causes are different, the solutions should also be different. This is exactly why one person may benefit dramatically from strategies like intermittent fasting, while another person may actually feel worse doing the exact same thing. Take someone with insulin resistance. For them, Carefully structured intermittent fasting may help improve blood sugar control, support fat burning, and improve metabolic flexibility. But someone with significant thyroid dysfunction might find that extreme fasting backfires, worsening fatigue, slowing metabolism further, and making weight management even harder. This is why comparison becomes dangerous. What works for one body may not work for another body. And perhaps this realization is freeing. Because if you've been blaming yourself for not getting results, maybe the problem isn't that you haven't tried hard enough. Maybe your body has been asking for a different strategy all along. So how do you begin understanding what your body might actually need? The first step is recognizing that several major hormones play powerful roles in metabolism and fat storage. Some affect blood sugar, others influence stress, reproductive health, thyroid function, muscle mass, or energy production. And each one can create its own unique pattern of weight gain. In this video, we're going to uncover the most important hormones connected to metabolism and body fat, understand how they work, where they tend to store fat, why they become imbalanced, and most importantly, what you can realistically do to support your body in restoring balance. And we're starting with one of the most powerful and misunderstood hormones of all, the hormone that silently controls blood sugar, fat burning, and one of the biggest drivers of stubborn belly fat, the hormone known as insulin. Before we talk about diets, workouts, or calorie counting, we need to understand one uncomfortable truth. Many people are fighting against their own biology without even realizing it. They push harder, eat less, punish themselves with stricter routines, and still feel trapped inside a body that refuses to respond. And often, one of the biggest reasons hiding behind this struggle is insulin. Insulin is probably the most talked about metabolic hormone in modern medicine, yet it's also one of the most misunderstood. Most people know it has something to do with blood sugar or diabetes, but few understand how deeply it affects body fat, energy levels, hunger, and even your ability to lose weight. Every time you eat carbohydrates, especially refined sugars, desserts, sweet drinks, white bread, pastries, or highly processed foods, your blood sugar rises. This rise is completely normal. Your body expects it, but to keep that sugar from becoming dangerous, your pancreas releases insulin, a hormone designed to move sugar from the bloodstream into your cells where it can be used for energy. In a healthy body, this process works beautifully. Blood sugar rises, insulin responds, sugar enters the cells, and balance returns. But the problem begins when this system is overworked for years. Imagine constantly flooding your body with high sugar meals, processed snacks, oversized portions, and frequent spikes in blood sugar. Every sugary dessert, every ultra-processed meal, every habit of eating without recovery time between meals pushes the body to produce more insulin. At first, your cells respond normally, but eventually something starts to change. The cells become less sensitive. It's almost as if your body starts ignoring insulin's signal. The pancreas responds by working even harder, producing larger and larger amounts of insulin to accomplish the same task. This condition is known as insulin resistance, and it has quietly become one of the biggest metabolic problems in the modern world. Here's where things become especially important for weight loss. When insulin remains chronically elevated, your body becomes far less efficient at burning fat. In simple terms, high insulin acts almost like a storage signal. Instead of allowing your body to comfortably access stored fat for energy, it encourages the body to hold on to it. This means that even if someone is eating less, exercising more, and genuinely trying to lose weight, elevated insulin levels may make the process feel painfully slow and frustrating. And insulin doesn't just influence whether fat is stored, it often influences where it's stored. One of insulin's most recognizable patterns is fat accumulation around the abdomen. If you've ever noticed someone carrying most of their weight around the belly while the arms and legs remain relatively lean by comparison, insulin imbalance may be playing a role. This stubborn abdominal fat isn't just frustrating from a cosmetic perspective, it's metabolically active, meaning it's closely connected with inflammation, cardiovascular risk, blood sugar dysfunction, fatty liver disease, and future metabolic illness. But here's the good news. Insulin resistance is often highly responsive to lifestyle changes when caught early. This is why strategies like improving food quality, reducing excessive sugar intake, increasing movement, prioritizing sleep, resistance training, and in some cases, intermittent fasting can be incredibly powerful tools for the right person. Notice something important there. For the right person, because this is where health advice often becomes dangerously oversimplified. Social media loves universal solutions. One person loses weight with fasting and suddenly everyone is told to fast. Another cuts carbs and sees amazing results. So the internet decides carbohydrates are the enemy for everyone. But biology doesn't work that way. Someone with insulin resistance may benefit significantly from structured fasting because periods without food can lower insulin levels and help the body become more metabolically flexible again. Over time, this may help improve blood sugar control and make fat burning easier. But insulin is only one piece of the puzzle because for many people, the story of weight gain isn't centered around belly fat at all. Instead, the struggle appears in the thighs, hips, glutes, or chest. And when fat seems to settle stubbornly in these areas, another hormonal system often enters the conversation. Estrogen. Estrogen is one of the body's most important reproductive hormones, particularly in women, though men produce it too in smaller amounts. Together with progesterone, estrogen plays a major role in regulating menstrual cycles, fertility, reproductive health, and tissue development. But estrogen also influences where the body stores fat. This connection has existed throughout human history. In fact, even ancient sculptures from thousands of years ago often emphasize fuller hips, thighs, and breasts as symbols of fertility and reproductive health. Long before modern science understood hormones, human beings were already noticing these patterns. When estrogen levels become elevated, particularly a powerful form known as estradiol, or when progesterone becomes comparatively low, fat may begin accumulating more prominently in the thighs, glutes, hips, and outer leg regions. And this is where many people become frustrated because they often try to fight hormonally driven fat storage with strategies designed for completely different metabolic problems. Someone with insulin-related abdominal fat may respond to one approach, while someone dealing with estrogen imbalance may find those same methods disappointing. This leads to one of the most important truths about body fat that many people never hear. You do not get to choose where your body burns fat from first. You can do hundreds of squats and still struggle with thigh fat. You can perform endless abdominal workouts and still notice stubborn belly fat. Spot reduction, the idea that exercising one body part burns fat specifically from that area, is one of the biggest myths in fitness. Your body decides where fat comes from. And unfortunately, when hormonal imbalances remain unresolved, your body often continues returning to the same storage patterns over and over again. This is why understanding the root cause matters so much more than chasing temporary solutions. There's another fascinating piece to this puzzle that many people never consider. Fat tissue itself behaves like a hormonal organ. The more body fat someone carries, the more certain enzymes inside fat tissue can become active. One of the most important is an enzyme called aromatase. Its job is to convert testosterone into estrogen. What does that mean in practical terms? It means higher body fat can sometimes contribute to even higher estrogen levels, creating a cycle where fat gain encourages hormonal imbalance, which may then encourage further fat storage. This doesn't only affect women. Men can experience this pattern too. Over time, this hormonal shift may contribute to changes in body composition, lower muscle mass, lower energy, mood changes, and increasing difficulty maintaining a healthy metabolism. But there's an important distinction to make here. Estrogen itself is not the enemy. Your body absolutely needs estrogen. Healthy estrogen levels support bone strength, cardiovascular health, reproductive function, and many essential biological processes. The real issue begins when balance is lost. Because not all forms of estrogen behave the same way inside the body, and what happens next may explain why some people continue struggling despite doing everything right. And to understand that, we need to talk about how your body processes estrogen, why some forms become more problematic than others, and what role nutrition and metabolism may play in restoring hormonal balance. Here's something many people never realize. Hormones are not static. Your body is constantly producing them, breaking them down, converting them, and trying to maintain balance. When that system works well, metabolism feels smoother, energy remains more stable, and maintaining a healthy weight becomes easier. But when the system struggles, the effects often show up in ways people don't immediately connect to hormones. When it comes to estrogen, balance matters far more than simply having high or low levels. One particular form of estrogen, called estradiol, is especially powerful. It plays an essential role in reproductive health, bone strength, brain function, and overall well-being. But when estradiol becomes excessive relative to the body's ability to process and regulate it, problems may begin to appear. Some people notice stubborn fat accumulation around the hips, thighs, glutes, or chest. Others experience bloating, breast tenderness, mood changes, heavy periods, low energy, or increased difficulty losing weight despite maintaining healthy habits. And here's where things become surprisingly complex. Your body doesn't simply produce hormones and leave them there. It also has to process and clear them efficiently. When this system becomes less efficient, certain hormones may linger longer than intended, shifting the body further out of balance. In many cases, the body attempts to convert stronger forms of estrogen into more balanced forms that can be managed more effectively. Think of it almost like recycling. But if that process slows down or becomes overwhelmed, hormonal effects may become more noticeable. This is one reason why overall metabolic health matters so much. Inflammation, poor sleep, highly processed diets, excessive sugar intake, chronic stress, sedentary habits, and increased body fat can all influence hormonal balance in ways many people never expect. And remember something important. Body fat itself isn't just passive storage. Fat tissue can actively participate in hormonal activity. This means the more excess fat someone carries, the more certain hormonal conversions may become amplified. This can create frustrating cycles. Someone gains weight, hormonal balance shifts, metabolism becomes less efficient, and weight management becomes harder. Then additional weight gain further worsens the imbalance. If this sounds discouraging, there's good news. The body is incredibly adaptable. Even relatively small lifestyle improvements can begin moving things in the right direction over time, prioritizing whole foods, reducing ultra-processed meals, improving sleep quality, increasing movement, building muscle, supporting blood sugar stability, and reducing chronic inflammation may all help support healthier hormonal regulation. But there's another hormone that may quietly sabotage metabolism in a completely different way. And unlike insulin or estrogen, this one often disguises itself as something people think they simply have to live with: stress, or more specifically, cortisol. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone, but that description barely scratches the surface of what it actually does. In healthy amounts, cortisol is essential for survival. It helps wake you up in the morning, regulate energy, support blood pressure, maintain focus, and prepare the body to respond to challenges. In fact, every morning your cortisol naturally rises to help you feel alert and ready for the day. That's normal. The problem begins when stress never truly turns off. Thousands of years ago, stress usually came in short bursts. Imagine a dangerous predator chasing someone through the wilderness. The body would release cortisol to sharpen awareness, increase energy, and prepare for survival. Then, once the danger passed, cortisol levels would settle back down. But modern stress looks very different. Today, the predators are deadlines, financial worries, relationship struggles, unfinished responsibilities, poor sleep, endless notifications, work pressure, anxiety, and mental overload. The problem is that your body often reacts to psychological stress in surprisingly similar ways to physical danger. An unanswered email might not threaten your survival, but your nervous system may still react as if something dangerous is happening. And when stress becomes constant, cortisol may stay elevated far longer than intended. This matters because cortisol affects metabolism in several important ways. First, chronic stress may increase cravings, particularly for sugary, salty, or calorie-dense comfort foods. Many people have experienced this firsthand. After a stressful day, healthy food suddenly feels less appealing, while processed snacks become far harder to resist. Second, elevated cortisol may interfere with blood sugar regulation, which means stress itself can indirectly contribute to insulin-related problems over time. But there's another fascinating detail. Just like other hormones, cortisol often has recognizable fat storage patterns. People with chronically elevated cortisol may notice increased fat accumulation around the lower back, sides of the waist, upper abdomen, neck, and face. Some individuals even develop a fuller, rounder facial appearance during periods of prolonged cortisol imbalance. In extreme medical conditions involving excessive cortisol, this pattern becomes even more pronounced. But for everyday people living under chronic stress, the effects may happen gradually and quietly. The frustrating part is that many people try solving cortisol-driven weight gain by simply eating less or exercising harder. Yet, if the body remains trapped in constant stress mode, results often feel inconsistent. And here's something important to understand. Not all stress is emotional. Poor sleep stresses the body. Overtraining stresses the body. Extreme calorie restriction stresses the body. Overworking without recovery stresses the body. Even obsessively trying to lose weight can become a source of chronic stress that backfires metabolically. This is why sustainable health almost always works better than punishment. For many people, reducing stress doesn't mean eliminating responsibilities or escaping real-life problems. It means learning how to regulate the nervous system more effectively. Exercise can help. Walking can help. Strength training helps many people. Better sleep helps tremendously. Spending time outdoors, improving relationships, reducing overstimulation, and learning stress management skills may support healthier cortisol regulation too. Because if cortisol remains elevated all day long, your body may continue behaving as if survival matters more than fat loss. And when survival mode stays switched on, metabolism often shifts in ways that make weight management feel far more difficult than it should. But there's another hormone system that may slow metabolism in an entirely different way, one that affects virtually every cell in the human body. And when this system becomes sluggish, many people suddenly feel tired, colder than usual, mentally foggy, and unable to understand why the weight keeps creeping up despite eating the same way they always have. We're talking about the thyroid. If there's one hormonal system that can completely change how your body feels from the inside out, it's the thyroid. Many people go months, sometimes even years, feeling like something is off without fully understanding why. They feel more tired than usual. Their energy drops. Motivation disappears. Weight begins creeping up even though their eating habits haven't changed much. Their hair feels thinner. Their skin becomes drier. Their mood shifts. And suddenly, even simple things feel harder than before. And often, the response they hear sounds painfully familiar. Just eat less. Exercise more. You're getting older. But what if the real problem has little to do with laziness or lack of discipline? What if your metabolism itself has slowed down? The thyroid is a small butterfly-shaped gland located in the neck. But despite its size, its influence throughout the body is enormous. Think of it almost like a metabolic control center. Thyroid hormones help regulate how efficiently your cells produce and use energy. And here's the remarkable part. Virtually every cell in your body responds to thyroid hormones. This means the thyroid doesn't just affect one area of health. It influences energy, temperature regulation, heart function, digestion, mood, concentration, muscle maintenance, metabolism, and body composition. When thyroid function slows down, often referred to as hypothyroidism, the body may begin operating at a slower pace overall. Suddenly, calories that once felt easy to burn may linger longer. Fat accumulation becomes easier. Energy feels lower. Recovery slows down. And people often describe a strange sense of feeling unlike themselves. Some of the most common signs can include fatigue, unexplained weight gain, dry skin, thinning hair, low mood, sluggish thinking, constipation, reduced motivation, muscle weakness, or constantly feeling cold, especially in the hands and feet. Many people assume these symptoms are simply normal aging, stress, or burnout. But sometimes the thyroid deserves a closer look. Unlike hormones such as insulin or estrogen, thyroid imbalance doesn't always create fat storage in one specific area. Remember how insulin often tends to influence abdominal fat? While estrogen may favor the hips and thighs, the thyroid behaves differently. Because thyroid hormone receptors exist throughout the body, reduced thyroid activity may contribute to a more generalized pattern of weight gain. Instead of one specific trouble spot, fat may appear more evenly distributed. That's one reason thyroid-related weight gain can sometimes feel confusing. People don't always notice one dramatic area changing. Instead, they simply feel heavier overall, puffier, slower, and more uncomfortable in their own skin. And for many women especially, thyroid imbalance may overlap with estrogen-related patterns, creating a combination of generalized weight gain together with increased fat accumulation around the hips and thighs. This overlap can make it harder to identify exactly what's happening. But there's another detail many people don't know. When doctors evaluate thyroid function, one important marker often measured is something called TSH, or thyroid stimulating hormone.